Hey there, funnel builders. Mike Killen here from sellyourservice.co.uk, and today I want to talk to you about the differences between lists and tags and groups and how you kind of use those with your email automation. I think it's really important that we understand the hierarchy or the purpose of a list compared to a tag, and also how things like contacts and other ways of segmenting your audiences work. I'm going to use ActiveCampaign for this kind of talk through, but I will be referring to other platforms like MailChimp as well, and things like Marketo in terms of how they run things. And I'll also kind of be going over a little bit of why I prefer to use ActiveCampaign for this particular reason. So inside ActiveCampaign here, on our left hand side we have contacts. And the way that ActiveCampaign kind of sees contacts is everyone who you have captured some kind of address or email or lead contact information from. Now obviously with things like GDPR or whatever, how you handle this, I'm not going to go into that, but I do want to talk a little bit about what the difference is between a contact and a list member, for example. The way that ActiveCampaign works is that everyone is a contact. Even if they unsubscribe, even if they're inactive, they are a contact. So this is someone who you've previously had, information before. It's someone who you've previously contacted, or they've contacted you. At some point there was a touch point there. But often they might unsubscribe from a list, they might unsubscribe from all your lists, you might unsubscribe them, they might be inactive, they might be dead, they might be super active, and moved into another area. That's irrelevant. The way that ActiveCampaign works is purely on number of contacts. Sorry, on someone being a contact. Now, the thing I love about ActiveCampaign is you can subscribe contacts across multiple lists. And when this was a really strong habit that I had to work my way out of, because platforms like MailChimp, for example, your contacts across lists, if there are duplicates, it's considered a count towards your contacts. For example, if I've got two lists in ActiveCampaign and they've got 500 people on them each, but there's actually only 750 unique people, maybe there's 250 duplicates, ActiveCampaign will say you've only got 750 contacts. You might have 1,000 people across two lists, but you have in fact got duplicates, and so it's 750 in total. MailChimp, on the other hand, at least this was when I used to use it, if you had two lists and they both had 500 people on, despite the fact that they were two completely different lists, and you had 250 duplicates, so only 750 unique people, MailChimp would say actually you've got 1,000 contacts because they're both across two lists. Now that might have changed. I'm happy to be shown I'm wrong on that, but that was one of the things that we looked into and why we moved over to ActiveCampaign. There's a few businesses that have a similar model. For example, SharpSpring, which hardly anyone will use who's watching this, but SharpSpring's another one, and Marketo. Marketo prides itself as being like the ultimate enterprise level marketing funnel automation platform, but in my opinion it's woefully outdated, and its contact, the way it lists contacts is via duplication. For example, and at enterprise level, if you've got 10,000 contacts, you're bound to have some duplicates there, and that can really double up your contacts lists, or even triple up if you've got multiple lists. But here in ActiveCampaign, I just have a contact. So I'm going to search for myself here, and we're going to go through what an individual contact looks like. You can see I'm in here a few times. Let's have a look at my main one. Here we go. So first of all, I've got all my information, like often where I am on social media, recent activity. I'm not actually interested in that. What I want to look at is lists and tags. Lists are kind of the easiest way to determine this. Is lists of people who are interested in a specific topic, so they're often registered by topic or stage is another useful one. For example, I've registered for a webinar in January, and I'm also on our newsletter, I'm also a Splinter customer, and I'm on a test list, right? So these are locations that, in my opinion, the easiest way to keep all your taxonomy and stuff sensible and easy to manage and easy to read is using lists as a way of determining where people are, so what topic they're interested in. So maybe they're interested in your particular content silo on SEO, or maybe they're interested in a particular content silo for a webinar that you're running. These are broad segmentations that show some kind of interest in something, and that's really the easiest way to determine that, is by thinking of your lists as what is this person interested in, and running all your automations off that. Tags, on the other hand, are easier to remove, easier to replace. They're designed for people to pick up multiple tags, left or right. Now, the reality is it actually doesn't make a huge difference how you use it. The problem comes in when you talk about subscribers and subscriptions and unsubscribes. If someone is subscribed to a list and you send them an email, maybe you've got a weekly newsletter and you've also got a daily, outreach email. They've got two different lists. So one is a daily list and one is a weekly list. And they unsubscribe from the weekly list. In ActiveCampaign, they won't be unsubscribed across all lists. They can do if they want, but they won't automatically be unsubscribed across all lists. They'll still receive, and let's say they opt out of your weekly email, they'll still receive your daily email. It's very difficult to manually resubscribe someone. We've even tried doing it and adding someone to a list automatically, and they have manually still been unsubscribed from a list. This to me is one of the most important aspects, I suppose, of list management, is understanding a tag is something that someone else won't necessarily have control over. They will have control over a list. And the way that we use tags is a location in the journey or some kind of action. For example, you can see here that I've got the tag here, welcome series finished. There's no need to put me in a list for that, but I'll want to say I've had a welcome series, I've then finished that welcome series and I'm done. I've finished the sales funnel for the $100,000, in this case it's a $100,000 email series product. I can also see here that I've downloaded this Facebook advert checklist. The way that we've run at Sell Your Service some of our lists is that people will join the newsletter and we would tag them, and if they weren't tagged with the newsletter, particularly with things like GDPR, if they weren't tagged with the newsletter tag, then we wouldn't send them a newsletter. This blog subscriber here is our equivalent of what the newsletter is. But now what we're doing is slowly moving people over to lists, so they opt into a list and they'll say, yeah, I'm interested in, Facebook adverts. I'll go, fantastic, you're in the Facebook advert list. I will also apply that tag to them anyway, because that usually starts off some kind of automation. But it also tells me that Mike has started this journey and maybe he hasn't finished that automation. Maybe there's an automation that says, Facebook course sales funnel finished or something like that. There's stages within the journey that someone is a tag of. You can manually add people into tags. You can, manually remove tags from them. The way that we use tags is to manage essentially where someone is within that particular journey, or the last action they've had, or the most previous action they've had. We do still like to tag them as well with a topic, because they can't untag a topic, whereas they can unsubscribe from a list. For example, if someone's not subscribed to the newsletter but they do have blog subscriber, I'll know at some point they were a blog subscriber but now they've unsubscribed. So I might even manually reach out to them and say, hey, can I just ask why this is? So understanding that people can be a part of a list, unsubscribe from their list, but their tags, that's kind of where they want to be, and it's harder for them to unsubscribe manually from a tag. Tagging is also the best way, in my opinion, to start and finish automations. That's how I like to do it. Some kind of different automation platforms have things like groups, for example. Now, groups ActiveCampaign doesn't have groups, but groups, for example, might be something along the lines of MailChimp has groups, for example. You can add people into a group, and the list is made up of multiple groups, and people can be a member of multiple groups. The only problem with groups I've found, though, is that once they're in, it doesn't necessarily allow me to easily search and see what groups one contact is in. Again, they might have changed it, but it's much easier for me to jump into ActiveCampaign and say, hey, let's have a look at Mike, or let's have a look at Jane or whatever, and I can see there in a bunch of tags, and I can use that to determine where people are within that buying journey and use that to start automations as well. You can be subscribed across multiple lists, multiple tags. You can have tags added and then removed. You can do that unlimited times. ActiveCampaign does get a bit funny if people are removed and then added from a list a lot of times. They can kind of bring up warning flags for that, I've noticed. And groups, there was a few other restrictions for things like MailChimp that use groups. At one point, you couldn't be subscribed to more than one group in a list. They have changed that, to be fair, but there's a few restrictions and things with groups as well that I think make it slightly harder to report on. I can see why people would do it like that, but I prefer the tagging system. But the way to use tags and lists is not to have everyone go into one bulk list. If you want to start like that, that's absolutely fine, and manage them with tags. But we have found that over time, having people across multiple lists and having them unsubscribe when they want from our sales emails or our offer emails, or a particular content silo or something, is slightly more effective than bringing them in across one list and then tagging them. Just what works better with unsubscribes now, we found. So yeah, that's pretty much kind of an overview of tags and lists and groups and some other autoresponders, especially in things like ActiveCampaign. If you guys have got any questions at all about ActiveCampaign, let me know in the comments below. I am Mike from sellyourservice.co.uk, and I will see you on the next video.